My name is Phillip Pellerin from Houston, Texas. Mother and father with two siblings, my two sisters, so 5-person household. Went to college in Tallahassee, Florida A&M, go Rattlers, where I met my wife, and we have 2 kids of our own. So now we have a 4-person household, and we just thriving and surviving out here.
Okay, so what do you do like for your like work? What do you guys what do you and your wife do?
Occupation. All right, I am a IT support specialist 3 at the company that I work for. It's a commercial HVAC company.
Okay.
And then me and my wife are also business owners. She created and was the brainchild of Zoe's Creation. So we make shirts and hats and all types of other fun stuff. And collectively, we also have a 360 photo booth business, znz360.com.
Okay, awesome.
Subtle plug.
Yeah. And his wife is on TikTok. So it's at Zoe's, is it Zoe's Creation?
We have a couple TikToks at Zoe's Creations, and there's also at Pellerin 4N Bunch. So Pellerin with the 4 in the middle, Pellerin 4N _bunch. That's our family TikTok, because our daughters are superstars in their own right.
Right. So follow both of those pages. Okay, so specifically about your father. So how in my project I kind of started categorizing fathers, because as I research more, I've figured out that majority of people fathers kind of fall in a very specific category, and then it kind of gets more specific, but generally fathers will fall into a specific category. So normally you may have like you can have like a very involved father, like where you had a very healthy relationship. You can have a father that was in your household but was emotionally detached. You can have the avoidant father. You can have just the absent father, the one that wasn't there at all. So of those categories, which category do you think your father would fit in a general sense? And then you can kind of give us some details about the specifics of y'all's relationship.
More generally, he probably would fit in the he's definitely in the household, definitely loving and caring. Maybe emotionally detached. And I'm pretty sure we're going to flesh into that, but I don't mean it in like a negative way. I mean it as in, I think the men that are his age, my dad is like 75. So I think the age range of the folks then, I don't think they were well versed in the emotional aspect when it comes to like parenting, especially as I was the only male in the household besides him. So I think it was even more so of, you're not going to do the emotions as much, because I got 2 daughters that's probably going to get all the emotions that he got built up.
So speaking of that, how do you feel your relationship with him differed from your sister's relationship with him? Because even with my siblings, specifically, talking about my mom, now that we're older and we have these conversations, we grew up in the household together, but we all had very different relationships and experiences with my mom, even though we were in the same household. So how do you think your relationship differed with your dad than your sister's?
I honestly think it was a lot of the same. I think where mine differs from my sister's is, again, I was the only boy. So whereas there was more, like you say, the emotional type of like detachment, it was also more of hands-on, I'm teaching you things growing up as well, being the father to son thing. So I spent a lot of time with my dad, like going to basketball and football practices, and he's giving me pointers and ideas and challenging me. I felt his love more through the challenges than the straight I love yous. It's funny because he got more emotional as we graduated and went to college. So I got the most I love yous and I missed yous from 18 till now.
Oh, wow.
Than I ever did from beforehand. Not to say that I didn't know the love, it's just that
it wasn't communicated.
Yeah, I felt it.
Yeah.
Like I said, he was always there. He was always present. You
Right.
know what I mean? My dad was
Hmm.
definitely involved. He was definitely, I felt it. I didn't feel unloved, but
Hmm.
verbally, like we make jokes about him now. We was like, look, my dad didn't turn soft. Look, he's getting very emotional. He
Hmm.
used to put his foot down and very opinionated, very, this
Right.
how it's gonna be. And now it's just like just big old softy now.
Hmm. So speaking of your childhood, do you feel as though you needed those verbal I love yous, or do you feel like you needed that emotional support? Do you think that would have kind of changed who you are now if you would have gotten more of that through adolescence?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Through therapy, we've had the discussion. What I've found out through my therapist and through talking with my wife is that I too was emotionally detached. It made it difficult for me to sustain a relationship.
Hmm.
Kind of didn't know the inner workings of it, even though I came from a whole household, both my parents,
Hmm.
married and together. But I was the third of the children, so I'm the baby of the bunch. So having
Okay, I
two
didn't know
kids of
that.
my own, I can imagine what it was like to have me at the age that they were in as their
Hmm.
third one. So I probably did get a lot of like tired. We already know what to do. Go with the motions type thing. Not a
Hmm.
fault to them. Again, I understand it. I have kids of my own,
Yeah.
but
And
but
I want to make that disclaimer that, and it's so funny that you keep saying I actually recorded a video today, um, where I just like I had some thoughts about something. So whenever I do that, I normally just like record a quick video, whether I put it out or not. But when I
Mhm.
was recording the video, it was almost as though like, you try to be honest and transparent, but at the same time, you don't want to offend anyone. Or you don't want to feel as though you're ungrateful or you're speaking back because in your mind that they did the best they could. So
Right.
so it's funny
I
that you
guess.
keep saying that because that's exactly how I felt today. And then I went and recorded another video and I'm like, we have to get out of that sense of always wanting to hold back because we're very protective over our parents. Even my dad wasn't there, but I'm still, I still have a sense of, wanting to be protective or not wanting them to feel bad. But your story is your story. But
Mhm.
so speaking of that, when you say that now he's more sentimental, and you get the I love yous a little more, the I'm proud of yous a little more. How
Mhm.
do you think that changes the way you deal with your own kids? Like, are you overly loving? Because that's me. I'm like, because I didn't get a lot of that growing up, I am overly like, I love you all day long and hugging and kissing on them. So do you feel like that has changed the way you deal with your own kids?
I don't honestly think I'm overly loving, but to me it is, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I feel like I am forcibly trying to say more, not feeling it, but just like, hey, whatever your thoughts in your head, it's okay to just blurt it out. You know what I mean? Just kind
Uh-huh.
of throw it out there. But I'm not saying like I probably do it all the time throughout the day. You know what I mean? So maybe not
Mm-hmm.
heavily, but to me it's heavily. Like I'm really like I be wanting to be around my girls and want them to see like daddy. I want them to be both of them to be daddy's girls. To be honest with you. And it's like
Yeah.
I want them to know it and hear it to where when they get older, it's not the first time you're hearing it from somebody.
Right. Absolutely. So, have you adopted a lot of the ways that you were raised with your children, or are there things that you're intentionally not doing, based on how you were raised?
Um, Hard to say right now because I don't really remember too much of my childhood with my kids' age, like 6 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't really remember how my household was functioning. However, I will say between me and my wife and our different upbringings, I feel like it's definitely ingrained in how we are raising our children, both our
Mm-hmm.
upbringings. Um, so, like I said, my parents were good. They were
Mm-hmm.
great parents. So I do want to adopt. uh, a lot of some of the things that they had with us. Um, really, like I said, it's just more the verbal thing. And again, I go back to, I really think it's a timing thing, like the age that they were in, the age of my parents, the age of them growing up, the stuff that they went through as adolescents. Like they had to be tougher than honestly what we had to be, to want to be frank. So
Yeah, absolutely.
how do you go from that to being extra loving when it's like, when do you take your armor off?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
I get that. So have you had any conversations with your dad now? Like, recently since you've been an adult about your upbringing or the way you were raised or, anything of that nature?
Honestly, no.
Really?
Um, Surprising. I know. Us Pellerins talk a lot, as you know from me from college.
Yeah.
And so we communicate often when my dad's around. We talk. It's generally
Hmm.
stories about what we were doing and our upbringing and things of that nature. But not, I don't think we've had to sit down and really just talk about like upbringing and our upbringing and stuff. It's good you brought that up though. It's probably something we should.
Yeah, now that I'm older, I've had like especially this past few years, I've had tons of conversations with my mom and just learned so many things um that I didn't know. But um I think I made a video about this too. Is one of the things I suggest people to do is have conversations with your parents, not just about your upbringing, but about their upbringing, because it really does, bring like a sense of compassion about the way you were raised and the reason why they did certain things. So yeah, so I wanted to know if you had
That
any conversations with him about that.
that part we have, I will say, like, again, like I said, the storytelling aspect. So
Mm-hmm.
we have talked about both of their upbringings fairly common. And I feel like, as always, no matter how many times I feel like I hear stories, it's something different that I didn't catch the
Mm-hmm.
older I get, right? I'm like, I didn't know that. Like I knew that story, but I didn't know you did what? Y'all have to go where?
Yeah, same
You know,
here.
and so and especially like from my mom's perspective more, because that when we moved back to my grandma's house, that's where my mom was grew up and was raised and whatnot. So it was all types of stories, and I
Mm-hmm.
had to walk from way over here. These were not these are
Yeah.
just clear streets. And then when my grandmother was alive on my dad's side, she would tell us all the stories and bring out the photo books of my dad. So that's probably why I'm so different. Like, you know what I mean? Like you said, protective. It's like
Yeah.
I know their
Yeah.
background. I know what where they came from, and I guess I know mine a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I know that they definitely did whatever they thought was best. So mhm.
So, what would you say is the single most important thing that your dad has taught you?
Accountability. Um, yeah, he like I said, it was very much a challenging type of dynamic with growing
Mhm.
up. Hey, like for example, the main thing he would always tell me is, "I tell you something that you can't do, and
Mhm.
I just want you to show me that I'm wrong." And so his whole thing was, "You
I
prove
like
me
that.
wrong. I
Mhm.
could tell you what you can't do, or you can go out and prove me wrong." And saying I could be wrong all day as long as you prove it to me.
Mhm. So
Okay.
do you feel like
And
that has like helped you through life in the challenging times?
it did. It has. And I think unpacking and counseling helped me uh try to curve it in a way. I think that
Mhm.
same mentality, uh, while it helps you to, you almost take too much accountability at times. Like something goes wrong, that you
Mhm.
had a piece of it. I did it. My fault. Like put
Mhm.
it all on me. Something happens between you and, like, hey, I did it. Put it all on me. It's my fault. So it's like you don't have to take all the accountability. But then
Mhm.
I think it aided with my imposter syndrome too, because I
Yep.
didn't feel like I was good enough when I missed stuff. When I messed up on something, it was like, I failed. He
Yep.
was right. I can't do it. I'm terrible.
Yep.
That's a
I
hard thing to fight.
Yeah, and I kind of grew up like that too, like not the accountability part, but just having a lot of pressure. The pressure to perform, the pressure to get straight A's, the pressure to, had tons and tons of pressure on me all the time. So whenever I made a mistake, it was like the end of the world for me. So then the perfectionism started, and that's just like a downhill battle. So
Mhm.
so yeah, I can definitely relate to that, growing up um with those kind of pressures on you. But I mean, in the same sense though, there's a negative side to it, but in the same sense, um, it does it does kind of suit you up for things in adulthood, and make you strive or go hard for things. So there's a flip side to both things.
Yeah,
Um,
when you get around somebody that constantly want to blame somebody else for whatever they're going through, you
yeah, that
appreciate,
is
man.
hey, it's not a good thing.
That is
Hey,
not
that
a
is
good
not a
look.
good
It's
thing.
you. Look at you. You might be blessed.
Right. So how long have you been in therapy?
About 6 months.
Okay. You
Six
do it
months.
regularly?
Uh, Not too regularly. Kind of
Hmm.
infrequently. Kind of when like I said, I need to talk. Like unpack
Hmm.
some things. Uh, we also do couples therapy as well. So whenever we can like align it, feel like we need to talk to unpack some things that's not getting
Hmm.
fully addressed at home. I would like to go to more consistently, but timing and scheduling and also
Yeah.
paying for it too.
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
will come to you every 2 weeks, sir, but I can't afford every 2 weeks. Like maybe once a month.
Right. Yeah. I myself too have um I kind of like fell into therapy in a sense. I originally felt like I was like having like ADD stuff going on. I couldn't focus. I had all this crazy stuff
Hmm.
going on. So I went to get evaluated for that because I'm like, I know I have ADD. So like I know something going on. So when I actually went to therapy and I started with the therapist and she did my evaluations, she's like, no, hun, you actually have anxiety. So it was just like, okay, there
Mm.
from there. So I did it consistently for a good while, and just through therapy, so many other things um came up and came out, and I had to figure out how to reroute life basically. Yeah. So
Yeah.
but I highly suggest therapy for everybody. Like even if you feel like nothing's wrong, something is wrong with all of us because we all grow up. Like, everyone has their things. And no one is perfect. So I highly suggest therapy.
I
But
highly suggest therapy for our people and
for
especially
Black
for more
men,
our black men. Um,
absolutely.
which
Absolutely.
is I
And
mean,
it's
and I'm preaching to the choir too. Like let me put this like I am
yeah.
preaching to the choir. My wife did therapy herself
Hmm.
um, after our baby was born, like in 2020, to help
Hmm.
herself out. And she was telling me I needed to do it. Like I said, I just went 6 months ago, so that's a year and a half, 2 years after she had been doing it. So it's a preach to the choir. You
Right.
don't know or don't think anything's wrong with you until you get in there. And I
Right.
found out I didn't know how to describe my emotions. Like I said, and I've been married for 14 years now. I mean, been together 14, married for almost 10 in May.
It's been that long?
And hmm
Wow. I didn't even realize that. That's crazy.
I know,
That's
right? You know us,
crazy.
both of us from dating. So that's 15,
I
15 years ago.
know. And it's so crazy. I just went to Tallahassee this past weekend. I hadn't been there since I graduated. So it's like a
Hmm.
whole new world there, a whole new world.
I think the last time we went was like 3, 4 years ago. Zoe was like young. She was like two.
Hmm.
So it's been like 4 years. And it was different just then. So I already know it's crazy different now.
Yeah, especially on FSU side, they have like a college town, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I officially feel old. Like this is crazy. But yeah, but yeah, so I commend uh you and Shayla, obviously, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but just to be a young Black couple, and like you said, I knew you guys from dating, to have been married this long, to have a beautiful family, to do the work, to stay together is commendable all in itself. Just, doing the couples therapy and doing the individual therapy so that you both can be your best selves. Like that is amazing. And I'm telling you, I talk to a lot of people, you don't hear it every day. So that is something that's very commendable, very commendable. And I'm sure you can attribute the way you grew up to where you are now in life, and just the effort that you guys put into, keeping your family together, having a good marriage. So I'm sure all of that can be attributed to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I will say I was, my wife didn't, and it's funny that you were talking about this. She actually did a podcast Sunday with her sister, and she was referencing about, you talking about our upbringings, how it's brought us together, like as far as our family thing. Her mom and dad were never together, so
Oh,
she
wow.
is like, so they were both in her life. They just weren't. She never saw them together. She was like, they never. So she had the 2 Christmases, like the back and forth thing or whatnot. And she was like, yeah, I always envision myself wanting a husband and the kids and everybody in the same household. And that's what I want for my life. And obviously, I think it ruffled a couple of their feathers because that's probably why I've been saying so much, like, look,
yeah.
Well, I've been so like, I'm not, no offense, this is my truth. However, I'm not trying to offend you. I know everything came from love in a positive place. So don't be offended. Right. But she was explaining her thing, that she was like, I didn't see that with my parents together, and I want that for my family. I want my kids to see that. And so I was raised with both of my parents in household, and it was in high school when I really started paying attention to one. A lot of my friends didn't have their parents together. A lot of people in my church did, but a lot of people I went to high school with didn't. And they would talk about how they were envious of, like, oh yeah, your mom and dad just right here. You know what I mean? And then even more so when I got to like college, and some of those people that I knew that were married started divorcing that was in our church. And it's like, you was raised in the household and they still together after like 30 years. Like, that is.
And what kind of church were you involved in?
It's a Catholic church. It's a predominantly Black Catholic church that I've grown up in like my whole life. My grandma was a parishioner there, so my whole family has been going to that church. And like I said, we had a very strong. It actually made me quite naive in college. I had such a good, strong group of friends that I grew up with, and then I went to high school, and I also had a good group of friends from high school. And I went to college, and believe it or not, I met a good amount of people that was not what you would call good friends. They was just there for the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
And my wonderful wife started pointing them out to me. So that's what made our relationship a struggle initially until it got better. But college opened my eyes to that. I was very green, very naive to like the fake friendships, the we're friends for the moment, but when our seasons don't align, I'm out. Like, wasn't used to that. When we found out.
Yeah, same here. And I think, but you're way more social than me. Way more. I'm kind of like the one where I'm gonna pick a few people and I'm gonna just stick to what I know. So yeah, but dealing growing up, kind of guarded in a sense. Just kind of sticking to your own group of people, it will throw you for a loop when you go to college and there's like everybody. It's like,
hey, how's it going?
Yeah, it's people from all different walks of life. So you're kind of like outside of your bubble. And honestly, I mean,
it was even being social. It was like that coming from Texas.
Yeah.
I was Texas to Florida. I was just like, I don't know what's all this going on over here.
Yep. And I honestly think, and that's what a lot of my research is about, I honestly think a lot of girls, specifically girls, that's why I'm talking to men to kind of see how it affects men. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of girls lose their way once you kind of go out of your bubble and you go to college and you go to, whatever it is that you do after you leave your household, and you're kind of, out to the wolves. If you don't have that father figure behind you, or that has instilled these things in you, it's super easy to lose your way. I just was fortunate enough to have a strong mom that kind of
Mm-hmm.
like just gave it to me. But if I had a passive mom, or if I had a mom that wasn't strong, I probably would have lost my way, because there's a lot of things, that you should get from your father that I just didn't get, or that I just didn't know. So
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, I had a bunch of prayers behind me. I didn't get into anything super crazy. But looking back, you can definitely see how you've made decisions and choices specifically just based on how you were raised. Um, and now I'm in my 30s, and I'm just now understanding that and realizing that after a divorce and after children and after all these things. So yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
that's my goal, and my motive is to put this out there to help, other young kids coming up, so that they don't have to go through those things. And also just open up the floor for men to voice their opinions and their feelings on, their relationships with their father. I just feel like a lot of men don't have the platform or the space or the openness, to really
Mm-hmm.
talk about their feelings and their emotions, as it involves their upbringing. So I do appreciate you doing this. I appreciate your insight. Is there anything else you would like to say about your father, or anything else you want to put out there before we close?
I do. Let me put big shout out to Dwight Pellerin, my
Mhm.
father. Uh, he was a great role model and example for how to guide and lead a family. And that's one thing I will say. I do strive to lead my family and provide for my family, and um, be the head of the household as my father led us.
Mhm.
And uh, he has the utmost respect for me, and he gives me all the advice that I ask for. So maybe I can be his emotional opening light, and we can help each other out.
Yes, that would be beautiful. That's amazing. Well, I thank you so much for taking out your time doing this. I know it's late and have kids running around everywhere. I totally understand. So I do
Man, look, I
appreciate
hope
your
my wife is
time.
putting them to sleep. I hope she's putting them to sleep, and I don't have
You
to
hope so.
come
And send
come back
Shayla
out,
my
and all
love.
the
That's
kids
me.
is.
His wife and I have the same name. So send
Mhm.
Shayla my love. And the babies.
I will. She said, "Hey." So it's like, tell her I
Tell her
said, "Hey."
hey. All right. Well, have a good night. Thank you so much again.
No problem. I say.
All right. Bye bye.